Gas up the Jeep, it's good to be free. Load up the pans and fishing poles. The highway is long, the wheels turning round. Pack up the cook stove and the bowls. Arlo and I, we hit the open road. Arlo and I are on the road.
Hey everybody, I'm back in the kitchen again today, and we're a couple of weeks before Thanksgiving. But I had this idea that's going to be great for your Thanksgiving breakfast or maybe even your Thanksgiving dessert. So I'm probably going to be putting this video up on Thanksgiving Day. So what I thought I would make today are some delicious apple fritters. Super easy to make, but I thought that I would mix it up a little bit, and I'm going to use these Tejocotes, which are Mexican Hawthorn apples. They're these like tiny little crab apples. They're not real sweet. They're a little bit mealy, but I think they're going to be perfect for our apple fritters. Now, traditionally, the Tejocotes are used, in a punch like ponche, apples and other fruits, in sugar and water and cinnamon and things like that, and make a drink with it. But they're also candied. Well, kind of candied. They're cooked in a sugar syrup with cinnamon as well. They are really beautiful little apples. Have some nice color. When I was a kid, we had two big, huge hawthorn trees in our backyard, and I remember going in the back all the time when the hawthorns were in season, as I would pick them off the tree and I would eat them. And they were big, huge shade trees right outside our back door, which is pretty cool. So it brings back a lot of memories. Now, like I said, they aren't particularly sweet. Let's try one. Now you can see on the inside, they do have some seeds, just like an apple does. And they are apple-like in texture, but very dry, quite a bit mealy, and kind of bland. But this is why traditionally they are cooked with lots of sugar and flavorings. But they do have a nice kind of apple, sort of a background flavor. So I think these are going to be perfect for our apple fritters. Something a little different anyway. And a lot of times when these are candied, they're blanched in water, and then the skin is peeled off. But it's just like a regular apple skin, which I don't mind at all. So I'm going to leave the skins on. I think they add a nice little color too. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to get all of these little apples processed and chopped up into little pieces, and then we're going to get the rest of our ingredients together for our fritters. For fritters, we're just using a basic fritter recipe. I have, for my dry ingredients, I have flour, sugar, I have a little bit of salt, and some baking powder. And then for our wet ingredients, I have some milk, 2 eggs, some melted butter, and instead of vanilla, I'm going to use some of this spiced rum. I think this is going to be great. That's going to give some more of those kind of spicy flavors into this. And that's it. Really, really simple recipe. The hardest part is really just processing all these little apples. And then I'm going to be frying them in some lard, because that's what I have, but I think that's going to be delicious. And then in the end, I made some cinnamon sugar, which I'm going to roll them in so they're nice and sweet and have that nice cinnamon flavor, which really brings out kind of those Tejocote candied Tejocote flavors, because cinnamon is one of the most common spices that's used in that. So let's get started. Okay, so what I like to do when I'm preparing these is I just kind of like go all the way around, kind of longitudinally, and I twist it, and then you have one side that's completely seed free, and you can just kind of pare out this little brown spot and pare out that little stem area, and then same thing on the inside. You can kind of scoop out the seeds just like that, and then once again that little flower end of the Tejocote, and then they're easy. They're just, now you have a piece of fruit that's seed free. Do this little, get this little piece out of here. And it helps to do these really quickly because they tend to turn brown really fast. Some of these green ones are a little tougher. And then you can take these and then cut them into small pieces, just like that. And then it's really important to put some lemon on these. This is some key lime. I think it's going to really add some more of that sort of Mexican lime kind of flavor. Okay, where's our, there, and then we'll put this lime juice right on there, and that's going to help keep those from turning brown. So let's get these chopped up. Get those right into that lime juice. See how quickly these turn brown? I don't know if you can hear those woodpeckers in the backyard. They're going crazy. Be very careful when you're doing this part. Sometimes I'll hold my finger and my thumb like this so that I can't go very deeply. And jab yourself in the palm with your knife. You don't want to do that. But by limiting the length of your knife, you're a lot safer. The stem end seems to have a little bit of a harder piece in there. There. Once again, hold your knife right like that. You can kind of helps limit yourself to how you do that. I've been cooking for many years, so I feel comfortable doing this, but you could probably cut them, like this. You lose a little bit, but it's a lot safer. So if you're not used to doing this sort of thing, I would recommend doing it that way. Just like that. Some of these are nice and ripe, and some of them are a little green, so they're a little bit harder, like this piece right here. You can hear that when I cut it. It's a little bit harder, so I'm probably going to take these and saute them a little bit in some butter in order to soften them up a little bit. All right, I'm over at the stove. As I mentioned, these little tejocotes are a little bit hard, some of the greener ones. So I'm going to saute them in some butter to soften them up a little bit before we put them into our fritter batter. So a little bit of butter. And I'll put those right in there with that lemon juice. That's about a tablespoon or so, a tablespoon and a half of butter. Turn this up a little. And then we're going to saute these until they become a little bit softer. Now really, I guess you could do kind of the traditional way of cooking these is that you could blanch them and then peel off the skins, and then you could cook them in and soften them in a sugar syrup, and then dice them up and put them into your you have more of like an apple pie filling, which is actually what we're going to kind of do here. I was kind of make sort of like an apple pie filling kind of thing. Either way, we're going to try to bring some of those flavors into this, but most importantly, we want to soften these up so they're not hard in our fritters. This is going to take probably, I don't know, 3 or 4 minutes sauteing here in the butter, maybe a little longer. All right, while our apples are sauteing on the stove, I'm going to get the rest of our ingredients together. So in this big bowl, I'm going to add our flour, all of our dry ingredients, our sugar, there's a little salt, and the baking powder. And then we're going to mix that all together. I think I might even put a little shot of cinnamon in here as well, because why not? And once we get all that mixed together, I'm going to put this aside, and then in this small bowl, we're going to get our other ingredients together. So 2 eggs, and then we'll give those a little bit of a whisk. And then to that, our milk, and our melted butter, and our rum. That's going to really add that vanilla kind of flavor, but also those kind of spices flavor too, because that's a spiced rum. I think that's some Sailor Jerry's. Okay. Those are looking really nice. The smell is really nice. It has a different kind of a apple smell. Kind of has a floral, it smells like apples, but also has this mixture of a floral kind of an aroma, as well as sort of a bitterness that you can kind of smell. But it is a very nice smell, something a little different. I don't know, kind of maybe like a rose hip and apple, kind of a combination of the smell. That's kind of what it reminds me of. And then also to this, now these are starting to get a little bit softer, I'm going to add some of our cinnamon sugar that I made for the end when we're going to roll them in. But I'm going to add some of that to this. Turn this down a little. And let these do their thing. Let's see. They are getting nice and soft. Yeah, actually, that's a very pleasant texture, but I'm going to let them go just a little bit longer. That cinnamon really complements this fruit really well, just like it does a regular apple. But there's a difference. Like I said, it has this floral kind of quality to it. I'll put a little bit more of this cinnamon sugar in there. And like I said, we're in essence kind of making a like an apple pie filling kind of a thing. All right, these are really nice and tender. I'm going to take them out of this hot pan and put them in this bowl here so they can cool a little bit faster. I should have put them in something more shallow so they'll cool even faster than that, but no, we're going to let these cool before we add them to our fritter batter. All right, to complete our fritter batter, of course we have our dry mixture that we made, and then we're going to add our wet right into that, and then our apples. I ended up putting these in the freezer to cool them down a little bit. This is looking a little bit dry, so I'm going to add a little more milk to this. I don't want it really runny, but I don't want it too thick either. Maybe just a touch more milk, not much. I think this will be perfect. Yeah, that's looking good. That's the way I like it. Kind of like that. Kind of like a muffin batter. We're going to let this sit for a couple of minutes. Get our lard back in the stove. Actually, let's do that right now. Get this going here. I have a plate with paper towel. Ideally, I would have a rack, a wire rack to put them on, but I don't have one here. So we're going to put them on these paper towels. And we'll let our lard come up to temperature, then we'll get going. Okay, our oil looks like it's hot. I put a little sample in there to check it out. So let's start making some of our apple fritters. Oh yeah. We'll do about 4 to start with here. I'll probably go for a couple minutes on each side. They've been going for about a minute so far, so I think, like I said, it's probably going to be about a minute to 2 minutes on each side, maybe a minute and a half. I'm so happy that I left the peel on those apples, because look at the beautiful color that's on there. Almost a beautiful peachy color that's on there. So, and we know that they're nice and tender because we cooked them in advance. Let's see. Let's turn this one over. That looks nice. Actually, I'm going to turn them all. So that's about a minute and a half on each side, and they're puffing up nicely. We want to make sure that they're cooked all the way through. Those are looking really nice. Maybe another minute. I really think that the lard is a great fat to cook these in, but you could also use something vegetarian, of course. Okay, I think those look perfect, so I'm going to take them out of the oil. As I mentioned, it's much better to put them on the cooling rack than on the paper towels, but this is what I have. So I'm going to push this off the heat. And I'm going to let these cool off just for a second so I can handle them, and then we're going to roll them in our cinnamon sugar. All right, I just let these cool off just for a couple of minutes. We want them to be warm, but we just don't want them to be super hot. So I'm going to roll them in this cinnamon sugar. Oh yeah. Oh, the smell in the kitchen here of cinnamon and apples. Is there anything better than that? Especially for your Thanksgiving. Maybe your Thanksgiving breakfast or your Thanksgiving dessert. It doesn't get much better than that. Of those tejocotes, so I can put them in the middle as a garnish, just to kind of show what they are. This is a nice red one. I'll put that one on top. Look at that. That looks really pretty. All right, there it is. Our tejocote apple fritters. They look so good. They smell amazing. They're still warm, so I want to try this right away. Let's just jump right in here. Let's grab one of these. Like I said, they are still warm. And crunchy. You see, they're cooked nicely all the way through. They taste like an apple fritter, but with a little bit more complex flavors. They have more of a floral flavor to them, but they're very tender, not too sweet. We didn't put a ton of sugar in the batter, but we did roll them in sugar, which is a nice, actually balances it out really well. The fritters are crispy on the outside, nice and tender on the inside, and they're filled with those tejocotes, those little hawthorn apples. I think that would be a perfect Thanksgiving morning breakfast, or Christmas morning, of course. But being that we're at Thanksgiving right now, especially if you have guests over, I think it would be a fun little story to tell them about something they've probably never had, these little Mexican Hawthorn apples. And they taste, when you do it like this, they taste just like regular apples, but with a little bit more of a floral quality. They aren't particularly delicious to eat by themselves. They're very dry, not very sweet, have a slight little bitterness to them, but kind of bland. But when you cook them, when we cook them with the butter and the sugar, all those apple fragrances and flavors just came out of it. So it really works well in a application like this. So, well, happy Thanksgiving, everybody. Thanks so much for following along. Hope you have an incredible holiday, and I will see you in the next one. All right, bye-bye.